Hello, everyone. This is Collapse Club, the podcast. I am David Baum in Seattle. I'm here with my colleague and friend, Matthew Painton. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, David, and hello, listeners. I'm in England on the south coast. Yeah, and this is an experiment that we're going to see how it goes. We're sitting in not knowing, as a lot of people are, and that's okay.
Matthew and I are conveners at the Collapse Club meetings that happen twice a week. You can find more information about that in the program notes. But today we're going to talk about something we've noticed, and that is that people who come to Collapse Club meetings report feeling very much alone in the world. They have knowledge of collapse, the breakdown of social systems and climate systems and monetary systems. The normal world is ending. And they know this, they feel it, they see it, but they can't talk about it to anyone. And they have this other life with their family at work, etc., where they just do business as usual. And this division of their experience really starts to get to them. So they're living this dual life, and it can be very hard.
Yeah, I couldn't say how many people I've spoken to about collapse who say that they've got no one to talk to about it, that even their closest loved ones can't bear to go there with them. And it's tragic. I mean, really, apart from anything else, it's tragic. So I think what we do, what collapse base is, one of its sort of primary functions is accompaniment. We're not trying to solve the crisis, though that would be nice, but that's not the ambition here. It's to be together in compassion and understanding.
Just the ability to talk about these topics together is really unusual. And people are really grateful for the opportunity to talk about these things in an atmosphere that's not totally overwhelmed by fear and avoidance and sort of derangement that comes with trying to, with considering and trying to make sense of what's happening. People say, I felt so alone. I thought I was crazy, not the world. But coming to our meetings, people are reassured there are other sensitive, intelligent people from all around the world who see what they see and feel what they feel, and they're able to share their knowledge and their feelings, and it provides an immense amount of relief.
Yeah, and yes, not just relief, but insight, and company, and I don't know. I call it enlivenment. There is a grace that emerges in the space when we each share from this really personal space about how we're being impacted, what we see, what we understand, and how it feels. There's more to it than just venting, far more to it than just venting. And yeah, you could call it grace, not for the sort of religious overtone, but for that uplift, that sober uplift that happens amongst us when we recognize our story, when people say things that we could have said, or name a feeling that you think, oh God, yes, that's how I feel. That's that feeling in my chest. Somebody's just spoken it. Yeah.
So this is not just an advertisement for our particular Collapse Club meetings, though you're very welcome to come if you'd like. But we're talking about people finding connections in the world to other people. One of the worst things about our modern civilization is how it separates people from other people, separates people from nature, separates people from whatever concept of the divine you might have, and ultimately, and this is the worst, separates them from themselves. It prevents people from getting a really good look at who they really are, because they're under such pressure to conform, to make a living, to not step out of line. It really crushes the human spirit. I'm talking about the modern civilization, the culture of the West, as we call it. So for me, collapse, despite how ugly and horrible it is really an opportunity for people to wake up from the sense of separation that has been enforced by the dominant culture.
Yeah. I've started to think of it as getting well. We allow it. Humans have spent most of our evolutionary and developmental time in the village. We are essentially collaborative and communicative and cooperative beings. And more than anything, that the village has been wiped out of human experience in modernity. We've got sort of national entities, the big scale geopolitical entities and national entities, and this hyper individualism, and all the space in between the village is just not there, or there in weird and unsatisfying ways. And I think these virtual communities that we're having sort of stand in for the village. Yeah. And that speaks, that accompaniment, deep accompaniment, speaks really strongly to the human soul.
Yeah, there really is something instantly soothing about connecting with someone who knows what you're talking about. My recent experience has been difficult and educational. A family member was in the hospital for 10 days, and I spent a lot of time in the hospital with them. And it was stressful and difficult. They're recovering now, so it's okay. But speaking of communities and villages, it was a bizarre experience. It was a great experience. We happened to land at a great place, a hospital with a system that works. And what that meant was that there were sensitive, skilled, aware people in a variety of roles, and the roles were very well defined: doctor, nurse, nurse's assistant, personal attendant, all these things, maintenance people, and everyone was playing their role. And the culture of this place was good enough that people were happy. As far as I could tell, they were genuinely happy to be doing a job that was working and helping other people. And they communicated well, and they seemed to respect each other and the patients that were there. And it was remarkable in that experience of people working or moving together on purpose and loving it is so rare nowadays.
And that would be part of the medicine, the village of care and concern would be part of the medicine, not recognized, necessarily. Yeah.
And we try to do that in the various online meetings that we do about collapse. There's Collapse Club, of course, then you do one or two other meetings deliberately, don't you, as part of the Deep Adaptation Forum?
Yeah, I offer deep listening once a month but there's every week there's a deep listening. There are deep relating processes in Deep Adaptation, and I also do a beautiful group guided meditation on Sundays. And each of the different sort of modalities has a different way of coming together and sharing and being together.
Do you find that different kinds of people show up to different kinds of meetings?
That's a good question. There's a pretty mixed bag in all of the offerings. It does, I guess it tends to be Europeans and North Americans. And I would hope that the spaces are welcoming to people outside of that, constituency. But yeah, sometimes people from outside.
You raise an interesting point. A lot of our meetings really are white people, just to put it straightforwardly. We do have some people of color who attend Collapse Club, but overwhelmingly the participants in this online talking to each other, exploring our feelings together, we are white, we are European, we are Anglophone, we speak English generally. In the beginning, a lot of us were older. I think this talking thing we do online at least started with people who were like retired, 50s, 60s, because we have time. I'm older than you are, but it was noticeable. We commented many times, it's like, oh, we're a bunch of gray hairs. And there's nothing wrong with that. Lately, I am thrilled to be able to report we are getting a lot more younger people, younger meaning 40s, 30s. Recently, we even had someone self-reported as a teenager, an older teenager. And we encourage younger people to talk to their parents. These kind of deep conversations are not generally appropriate for, really young kids, but younger, or getting 20s, 30s, 40s now. And they have a slightly different perspective. They're sort of looking forward to life, while us older folks are sort of looking back on life. And both of us facing the end of things, but from really different perspectives. But we haven't broken out into really people of color, the majority world, as it's called.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting thing, not to make assumptions about it. I think there are many variables that kind of determine how people perceive the crisis or collapse or sorry, my phone's going. Sorry, my phone. Yeah, so age, gender, physical location, education, religious or metaphysical commitments, social identity, profession, they all affect how we perceive what's occurring on Earth and what we need to talk about, what the salience landscape, what shows up as the sort of threats and concerns and feelings attached to. And there's the more diverse the group is, the more interesting the conversation in some ways. But why would people from the global south necessarily want to talk to people who are sort of mourning their loss of way of life and what's happening? There are some processes that are appropriate to do amongst ourselves, and the burden of responsibility for what's happening on Earth, the sort of I call it insight distress. When you wake up from a delusion and realize what you've been doing and what you're responsible for, there's a sort of a period of depression, possibly shame, grief, that needs to be gone through as part of getting well. And that's a process for people in the global north, not necessarily for people that have never bought into or really benefited from this civilizational bubble.
Yeah, you make a good point. It's like we're the ones who did it, culturally speaking, so we're the ones who have to cope with what that means.
Yeah.
And you bring up it's a very interesting point. One thing I've noticed about our meeting, speaking generally, not just Collapse Club, but all of the online talking about collapse meetings, there are at least a couple of different purposes. One purpose is for people to feel better, to get some relief from the distress of confronting collapse as a phenomenon. But also for me, it's about understanding what's going on. And what you say points to that. It's like we northern white people generally have perpetrated the crimes and practices that are leading to collapse. So we need to face up to it. I don't think enough of that goes on, to be frank. I think we don't spend enough time looking at our responsibility. I think for me personally, the investigation of collapse and my approach to it has been about understanding what is my responsibility and what is not. And this goes with the question we're always asking, what is mine to do? For me, there is a particular part of that, which is where's the guilt and repentance. It's like we need to repent of our crimes, and that sounds like overt religion and moralizing and all of that. I don't exactly mean that. I don't think we can be happy. I don't think we can relieve ourselves of distress without acknowledging what we've done, participated in, and repenting, giving it up, and knowing our remorse for that. And letting that remorse be part of our grief.
Yes. And things like shame. I think shame is one of the most sort of corrosive and unpleasant feelings that it's possible to have. And it has a function. There's a reason why we are able to feel shame. It's about belonging and, you know, social behavior correction. It works well for the in the village. You know, it has a function, but it's not supposed to be carried long term. It becomes very corrosive very quickly. And we're not just talking about personal shame that we can correct, you know, behavior that we can correct. We're situated in communities, nations, a civilizational project. And how, as individuals, do we pass that shame without it becoming corrosive, without it becoming explosive, without finger pointing? And in groups, in circles, we pass that slowly, bit by bit. Somebody will offer an insight about it. Then it might not be talked about again. Then somebody else will offer another insight about it. And slowly we pass it, metabolize it. And then you can make restitution in some small way in your life. But without that metabolization, either it's just overwhelming and we can't take it on because species level shame, or you know, civilizational level shame. The individual isn't a big enough container to handle that and process it. We have to do it together. That creates a container that's big enough to process it and then do something about it.
Right, because one of the effects of the separation that is imposed by the civilization is you're left alone with shame that, as you say, is species sized. And
Yeah,
you try to do it yourself, it's just going to blow your mind. There's no way to do it.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you need the group. So we have deliberately and artificially put together these groups, which, as you say, create a container that is sufficiently sized and also carefully structured to allow this communication to take place and the shame, as you say, to be metabolized. I think that's really the point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of, the group increases the capacity of what can be processed, and the group decides for itself where the conversation's going. And you know, we often get themes emerge, and you know, somebody will share something, somebody else will share something else that has a resonance, and then you get a sort of theme going. And there's a lot of wisdom in the group to the pace and the depth, and the pausing. It's not a bun fight. It's not a free for all. It's not an argument. It's not a discussion. It's a process of unpacking and multi-perspectival viewing of a topic, which is what the village always used to do.
Yeah, we're fortunate in that group consciousness, if I can call it that, has evolved over time. We definitely started as a group of individuals coming together to share our individual experiences and accomplish individual relief. That's clear, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's the goal at some point. But we've been very fortunate that over time, as people come back and learn about each other and keep the discussion going from week to week, that themes emerge and a group understanding sort of bubbles up, which I personally rely on week to week. It's like I have to get to a meeting so that I can hear what we are thinking this week.
Yeah.
And that sets me up for a while. So I rely on it personally.
Yeah. And that's the sort of spooky thing about it. A couple of people have said to me recently, when I tell them I do sort of a couple of meetings a week or whatever, oh, that's so sort of self-sacrificing of you, or something along those lines. And the opposite is true. Even as a facilitator, I need these meetings. They keep me sane. They help me get well and stay well, and put me in touch with our humanity. Not, I'm always inspired by something somebody says, always feeling, there's just so much occurs that is of benefit.
Well, let us turn toward our conclusion. Let's do one more little exchange and then we can be done for today. We are having a good experience within our groups, which probably at the outside, I would say there's 70 or 100 people amongst all the groups that I'm in touch with and you're in touch with. It's fairly small in the giant scheme of things, no less significant for that, but still. What do we think? Is there any prospect that we're going to spark something, that there's something here that can be a spark for a wider fire, or probably that's not the greatest metaphor, a seed for a wider cultivation or something? Can it spread? Can it become a mass movement? Is that what it's for? What do you think about looking outward into the great big world? How do we relate to that?
Wow, great question. There was a part of me, and still is to some degree, that sort of hopes and expects that as the crisis accelerates and gets worse, the scales will fall from people's eyes, and they will remember their humanity and act together to sort of vector towards the best possible outcomes and regenerate. I think it's possible. I don't think it's likely. But there are people all over the planet leaning into getting well, responding wisely, who benefit from the village, however that's showing up in their life. So it's kind of not about numbers. If any one of us can be a beacon in our community, of a beacon of humanity, as people lose their shit, having these discussions is a really good way to sort of lean into that a little, because the distress is being metabolized in circle, so that we're learning how to regulate ourselves, regulate each other, have really high quality conversations, which will always be at a premium in distressing circumstance.
Thank you for that, Matthew. I think we'll leave it there for now. This is the Collapse Club podcast. I'm David Baum in Seattle with Matthew Painton. You, the viewer or listener, you're welcome to join a Collapse Club meeting. We do 2 of them every week on Wednesdays and Thursdays. If you're in Australia or New Zealand, it's 1 day later, but you can find the information at collapseclub.com, and there's information in the episode notes as well. Matthew and I are going to keep going with this podcast. This is an experiment to find out what it sounds like when 2 guys are talking about collapse. We hope to invite some other people on as well.
Yeah.
So we invite you to stay with us as we continue. Would you like to say final words, Matthew?
Well, the theme of this talk was you are not alone. And if you have been feeling not alone in your collapse awareness, I hope just the sound of the voices will give you some comfort and insight and be of value.
This is Collapse Club. Until we meet again, farewell.
Bye-bye.